Good morning and welcome. My name is Kitty Sabaslai. I'm the producer for today's event. And before we get started, I'll just let you know that we are streaming live on Facebook, and also we are recording today's event. And if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. You can find it on the bottom of your screen. If you have any specific comments, you like to say thank you or say hello to the fellow panelists and participants, you can do that in the chat. And with that, I'd like to give this over to Miss RENA, our host today, who's gonna start with the opening ceremony.
Good morning. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome you all to the first virtual Guyana Extractives Industry Transparency Week. My name is RENA GUENDUEZ. I am the Chief of Party for the Guyana Extractive Sector Transparency Project, also referred to as GUEST. The Guyana Extractive Sector Transparency, GUEST project, is a 2-year project that is focused on supporting Guyana in achieving good governance and transparency in the extractive sector, including mining, oil and gas, forestry, and fishing. The GUEST project began implementation in September of 2019. It supports the Guyana Extractives Industry Transparency Initiative, also known as the GYEITW, in a technical and advisory capacity, supporting communication and outreach initiatives and providing organizational and administrative support. The project's goal is to assist Guyana in meeting its requirements as per Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative membership. This week marks an important milestone and opportunity for all of us to reflect on Guyana's bountiful natural resources, whether oil and gas, mining, forestry, and fishing, and the strides being made to support and pursue ongoing transparency and accountability in these important sectors. Presentations during this week of knowledge sharing will focus on everything from updates on Guyana's government policies to commodity trading in oil and gas, the EITI, GYEITI, and local content, to name a few. There are also lots of exciting activities and workshops for members of civil society and investigative journalists. Guyana is still a young country when it comes to manning its newfound petroleum wealth. With this comes the energy and strength to pave a roadmap that can increase opportunities and benefits for current and future generations. I will be joining you throughout this week-long event, moderating, speaking, and encouraging your active participation in our virtual forum. We are delighted to have your attendance and look forward to having your participation throughout this exciting program. We will now hear remarks from the Executive Director of the Pan American Development Foundation, PADF, Katie Taylor.
Good morning and welcome to the Guyana Extractive Industry Transparency Week. I'm Katie Taylor, Executive Director of the Pan American Development Foundation, PADF. I'm honored to join you today as we kick off the Guyana Extractive Industry Transparency Week, which is organized with the generous support of the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our special guests, the Honourable Minister of Natural Resources, Vickram Bharrat, U.S. Ambassador to Guyana, Sarah Lynch, Guyana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative National Coordinator, Dr. Rudy Jadupat, and Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative Regional Representative Francisco Paris. At PADF, we believe in caring for both people and planet. Communities can safeguard their ecosystems for current and future generations while promoting sustainable economic growth. We support sustainable livelihoods and institutional reforms that improve environmental protection, among other critical efforts to create a cleaner, healthier planet. Central to our work is the promotion of transparency and accountability across Latin America and the Caribbean. We apply those principles to all our projects, whether it be access to justice, police reform, institutional strengthening, press freedom, and many other areas where we promote good governance and full democratic rights. Extractive sector is one of the areas where PADF seeks to foster transparency through key international and local legislation to champion mainstreaming and disclosure, as well as the important role of the Guyana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative in monitoring and supporting change and reform for improved public access to information. This week's sessions will bring together government, industry, civil society organizations, journalists, and the general public under one forum to discuss Guyana's ongoing pursuit of good governance and transparency in the extractives sector. I applaud this effort to strengthen transparency, increase advocacy through civil society organizations, inform the public through the media, and improve governance. Throughout the week, you will learn about the objectives and standards of the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, oil and gas contracts in Guyana, how state-owned extractive companies are tackling transparency. You'll learn about Guyana's governance and transparency policies, barriers to public disclosure of ownership in Latin America and the Caribbean. You'll learn about women in the extractive sector, job opportunities in the sector, and how to avoid conflicts of interests, and how the Natural Resource Charter opens opportunities for advocacy. There will also be a dedicated journalism training offered to reporters who cover these complex topics and have the responsibility to inform the public with well-sourced, factual, and impartial reports. I hope that by the end of this very rich week of dialogue and exchange of ideas, you will gain a strong understanding of PADF's Guyana Extractive Sector Transparency Project, funded by USAID, and the role it plays in strengthening and supporting the country's extractive sector, particularly the vital role of civil society organizations and the media. The project's broad range of programming aims to support transparency and the role it can play in changing daily lives, all of our lives. We are fully committed to supporting transparency initiatives in Latin America and the Caribbean and creating a hemisphere of opportunity for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. On these kind words, I would like to introduce the Director for the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, EITI, Latin America and the Caribbean, Francisco Paris.
Well, thank you very much for being part of this Guyana Extractive Industry Transparency Week. We are very pleased to be part of this launching session. If you allow me to start with a personal note, I am from your neighbor, Venezuela, myself, and I know very well about what the research course is. I wrote my dissertation thesis on that literature and that experience in Venezuela, and I know the tough decision you have in front of you as Guyanese citizens. You need to use these resources in the best way possible to ensure sustainable development. That is easier to say than to do it. We in Venezuela, we faced those decisions decades ago. We have to decide between building an electric dam in the Guri region, which is not far from your borders. And I believe your former Prime Minister Samuel Hintz's first work was in the industrial area of that province in Venezuela. Well, we have to decide between building this dam, there are 10 megawatts of power, and a dam in the Andes mountain, which costs exactly the same and only deliver 0.5 megawatts. So that's the kind of decision you as a country, you can be right with those decisions. You can be in the right side of efficiency, using the money the best possible way, or you can build white elephants. So I totally understand the difficult decision you have in front of you, saving for the rainy day or investing now, investing in development now, wisely or unwisely, is tough. The EITI was the answer to the resource curse problem 20 years ago. And what you see now, the EITI standard, is the fruit of 20 years of perhaps 15 years of hard work in codifying best practice in disclosure of usable data, but also adding two features. It's core to the EITI, the tripartite format, the tripartite platform. It's important that each EITI country, and we have 51 of them, have established a multi-stakeholder group, what we call it, but basically is a table where government sits with industry and civil society. That is key part of the standard. But also the standard stress that data for itself is not useful if it's not used, it is not analyzed, it is not debated. So a great deal of all the rules and procedure that you have in this standard deal with these three components. Usable data, a multi-stakeholder group that can make the best use and stakeholder engaged in the discussion and the findings of provided by this data. In these 20 years or so, the EITI have meant, like in, for example, Nigeria, it helped to recover billions of revenue that was not properly accounted for before. In the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2018, our validation report found out dealings, obscure dealings in the mining sector. In Mongolia, the reports have identified problems, failures to meet environmental regulations. In Afghanistan, our validation also allows civil society constituency to voice concerns about illegal mining. And closer to our region, in Peru, 5 EITI subnational implementation in Arequipa, Cusco, Moquegua, and 2 others have allowed to follow the money from the central government, royalty money that is transferred, and how it is used by local government, how it is spent in practice, and if it contributes to development or not. The EIA standard is a transparency tool at the end of the day. It's for countries to use it. It does not prescribe magic bullets or policy panaceas of how to spend or how to manage the sector. It is not what the EITI standard is about. Back to our tough decision I mentioned to you as a Venezuelan, we also got a lot of advice and institutional design, and we established sovereign funds, and we established investment funds, and all of that, well, has as a result, and I don't want to expand on what the Venezuela, more than 80 years of oil bonanza end up in terms of development of the country. But the EITI is a tool for you to use it for getting your own decision, getting your own procedures right. And as I say, it's tough, but we are here to help Guyanese stakeholder to uphold the EIA standard as a facilitation, as a tool for you to make those decisions, to debate this, what we call it, data-rich debate, data-based debate, or evidence face debate and discussions. We are in the International Secretariat in Oslo here, only worry about ensuring that the data that is disclosed under the GEITW in each of the countries is to the high quality, that your tripartite platform functions well. This is a big part of what we in the standard uphold and monitor. And of course, as I said, to make very good use of this data and this process. And I believe that this week is part of that. So we are very glad that it's happening. We're very glad to be here. We will contribute as much as we can in other part of the agenda. And we wish you a very fruitful week. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share with you.
Thank you, Francisco, for sharing this important message. I would now like to introduce the United States Ambassador to Guyana, Sarah Ann Lynch, to deliver remarks.
Minister of Natural Resources, Honorable Vickram Bharrat, Honorable Ministers of Government, members of the Diplomatic Corps, EITI National Coordinator, Dr. Rudy Jadowat, Executive Director of PADF, Katie Taylor, Regional Director of EITI Latin America and the Caribbean, Francisco Harris, members of the private sector, members of the press, distinguished guests, it's with great pleasure that I speak to you today about the advances Guyana has made in pursuing greater transparency and good governance in the extractives sector. Good governance is the responsibility of everyone. USAID's Guyana Extractives Sector Transparency, GYEST project, and other US government partners are working with the Guyanese government, the private sector, and civil society to support Guyana's stewardship of its natural resources and wealth. Each of these partners has an important role in ensuring that operational, monitoring, and reporting systems are transparent. Good governance assures the equitable distribution of resources for the benefit of all. Here are some examples of how the partners have each participated in steps toward good governance. Before applying to the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, or EITI, Guyanese government stakeholders worked with US government partners to prepare for candidacy. The Guyana government also set up the National Secretariat, or GYEITI, which is in charge of coordinating EITI implementation. As a result of many collective actions partners were taking at the time, Guyana became an EITI candidate country in October 2017. Subsequently, in 2019, USAID's GYEST project began. The team has worked with local partners to identify gaps in mainstreaming and disclosure to meet EITI requirements. As a result of the USAID program and the diligent efforts of our partners, journalists wrote investigative pieces on the extractive sector and promoted transparency in the sector. Civil society organizations are working within their communities to improve public knowledge of transparency in this sector and involve the public in governance processes. The GYEITI Secretariat has also developed communications products to improve public knowledge of transparency in the extractive sector and build public involvement in governance processes. And a new GYEITI website was developed and will improve Guyana's monitoring and reporting capabilities. Through these coordinated efforts, different partners played critical roles in improved transparency and good governance. In 2020, USAID increased support for the GYEST project by $500,000, making the total investment $1 million US. The US government has also supported other programs and partnerships. In April of this year, the US Embassy hosted a series of virtual programs to honor Environmental Awareness Month, and we held a session on mining. That session confirmed that Guyana is a regional leader in mining sector legislation and stakeholder participation. I would like to think that the GYEST project had something to do with that. A special thank you to the Guyana Geology Mines Commission, Conservation International, and the Guyana Women's Miners Association, which exemplified the diverse stakeholder participation that has become the norm for Guyana's mining sector. The April sessions also provided an opportunity for stakeholders to discuss deforestation and mercury pollution, the most common environmental effects associated with mining. I understand there are new technologies that are being explored that will reduce environmental degradation and enhance sustainable practices. The NGO sector is vital in these efforts, as their work with the communities and identifying vulnerable or trafficked persons is a significant contribution to the overall health of the industry. Mining, one contributing partner to the extractive sector, creates 12,000 to 18,000 jobs for Guyanese. The importance of the industry's transparency and robust checks and balances cannot be overstated. And the GYEST project has shown that transparency works. Civil society matters. Journalism matters. It takes all stakeholders working together to build an industry that is transparent and successful. Jobs within the sector feed families, they put children in school, they help build a diverse economy, and they help build a nation. What we have done here together in the extractive sector should be a model for other industries in the country and the region. As the White House nominee for Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere Affairs, Ambassador Brian Nichols, said recently, it's one thing to be elected democratically. It's another to govern democratically. The presence of international as well as national organizations in this meeting shows the power and the importance of promoting good governance across the spectrum. In terms of next steps, I know the foundation has been laid, and there are talented people involved in ensuring that Guyana keeps a favorable position within EITI. This broad participation is also a model for replication in other sectors. Guyana's future is too important. Stakeholders across the sectors should replicate this robust collaboration so that all Guyanese are benefiting from its wealth and its progress. Thank you to the organizers of today's meeting. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. I hope that as participants engage in this week's activities, you are able to strengthen this coordination and continue to advance the work needed in the extractive sector. It's critical to Guyana's continued progress and its development. Thank you all so very much.
I would like to thank the Ambassador Lynch for her supportive words and would now like to introduce the Honourable Minister and Member of Parliament, Vickram Bharrat, Minister of Natural Resources.
Members of the international and diplomatic communities, senior representatives of the extractive companies, distinguished speakers and guests, my fellow Guyanese brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure and honor that I take this opportunity to speak briefly at such a timely and relevant event. The areas of focus that this event allows us to ponder on are indeed critical to the economic, social, and political development of Guyana. As you are aware, our country has been blessed with a sizable portfolio of natural resources. The range of these resources include gold, bauxite, sand, and manganese, to mention a few. Notwithstanding, Guyana was positioned centered of the international stage in 2015 when ExxonMobil and its partners discovered world-class deposits of hydrocarbons. The country's prominence on the world stage continued to increase due to the rate at which subsequent discoveries were made. We are indeed fortunate to be living during a period that can be easily classified as a watershed moment in our country's post-independence history. Discovering oil effectively broadened the wealth of natural resources that defines the country, making Guyana a truly extractive economy, if it was not already classified as such. Oil's entry into the country's natural resources brings with it renewed hope for Guyana to finally realize its post-independence goals and aspirations. As exciting as this prospect may be, as I have remarked in the past, it is also the subject of great scrutiny. The government of Guyana is committed to ensure that our resources are exploited in a prudent and sustainable way for the benefit of all Guyanese. Prudent and sustainable exploitation will be facilitated through good governance. Good governance that will ensure the government's vision is achieved. Proper stewardship in the management of our resources will guarantee that there is a tangible realization of our vision. I am happy to communicate to you that the government of Guyana is committed and is working steadfastly to ensure that our resources are managed in a way that allows all Guyanese the opportunities to have better and improved quality of life. One of the ways in which we will enable the proper stewardship is through transparent management. Importantly, we recognize that transparency engenders public trust. In turn, this fosters accountability, which ultimately lends itself to good governance practices, which act as the benchmark for present and future generations. His Excellency, President Mohamed Irfan Ali, has recently pointed out that for small states like Guyana, the extractive sectors remain an important economic lifeline. By transparently managing the extractive sectors, we will guarantee that this economic lifeline is preserved so as to continue to act as a vital source of investment, growth, and foreign exchange to support the livelihoods of our people. Permit me to briefly highlight some of the notable acts of the government of Guyana. In 2021 budget presentation, the government revealed its commitment to pursue an active legislative agenda, one that will implement oversight measures which will enhance transparency and accountability. We have adopted the governance mantras of transparency and accountability to guide our footsteps along the developmental pathway that the watershed moment has presented us. Noteworthy, we have been working closely with the Attorney General's Chamber to move our legislative drafting, which will overhaul the petroleum regulatory framework. The overhauling of our petroleum laws will incorporate mechanisms that will bolster our transparency and accountability initiatives. Naturally, open and frank consultation with all the relevant stakeholders will only enrich the final legislative product. Amidst calls to review the reports that guided some of the government of Guyana's decision on the imminent Gas to Shore project, the Ministry of Natural Resources underscored its commitment to transparency by releasing those reports on its website. Persons now have the ability an opportunity to peruse and to inform themselves of government's thinking on the important benefits that this project will bring to our country, especially the manufacturing sector, and notwithstanding the major benefits of this project, which will be cheaper, cleaner, and more reliable energy. Government published and made available its first and second EITI reports as it continues to support the work of the EITI through continued engagement with a view of overcoming existing challenges. Already, the government has issued requests for proposal to solicit expressions of interest for a consultancy to establish a beneficial ownership register as required by the EITI standard. Equally, draft terms of reference have already been prepared to procure an independent administrator for the preparation of the country's third EITI report. As you can see, efforts are deployed in various avenues to give life to Guyana's EITI commitments and improve the country's position on the EITI's implementation status. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, it is important that I indicate the government's commitment to transparency in the short, medium, and long-term projections. Government agencies whose functions touch and concern EITI areas will in the short and medium term undergo capacity building and training of staff to better understand the disclosure requirements of the EITI. Also, those agencies are improving their technical capacity to better align data and information collection systems to satisfy EITI reporting processes. Currently, the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, GGMC, has a cadastral system in place, and it is being improved to accommodate and mainstream our transparency efforts. Also, the ministry is working along with the GGMC to gather the names of all current petroleum prospecting and production licenses. Inevitably, this will be the disposition of the government with respect to all future petroleum licenses granted offshore and onshore Guyana. As a testimony to our unwavering commitment to transparency and accountability, government has vouched to not spend any revenue gain from our petroleum resources until our Natural Resources Fund is recalibrated in a way that guarantees the transparent management in an arm's length way from political interference. From the moment government commences spending of the petroleum revenues, Guyanese will be comforted in knowing that transparency is our guiding star. Additionally, the government's e-governance program, the establishment of Government Portal of Guyana, represents a comprehensive and user-friendly portal for a single point access for finding and using government services. This portal is a gateway to government policies, important announcements, and other reference materials from the respective ministries and agencies. It is envisioned that in the medium and long term, all government agencies will have data portals which are integrally linked to a central database. This will ultimately serve as the foundation for real-time mainstreaming of data and information now routinely published in the EITI reports. Ladies and gentlemen, the government of Guyana is of the firm belief that all our citizens, who are the rightful owners of the country's natural resources, stand to benefit from the good governance of the extractive sector. Good governance will place Guyana in a poised position to tangibly realize its true potential and aspirations for the benefit of present and future generations. Our government will continue to work to ensure that our country's prosperity is guaranteed. A transparent and accountable government will be the first key step in restoring our nation's faith in its elected leaders. This government is committed to that restoration. I thank you.
I'd like to thank the Honourable Minister for his important message and words of wisdom, and now declare Guyana's first Extractives Industry Transparency Week officially open. Join us as we move forward to our next session, and please be sure to check out our exciting events, resources, and tools on our website at guyanasextractives.com. Have a great virtual Transparency Week. I look forward to seeing you at the events.